Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and today we're going to talk about things women do that push men away. You guys know I like my series, so I'll do a little series where I do about the women, I do about the men, and I'm also going to do 2 parts of things that women do that attract men and things that men do that attract women. The things we're going to be talking about are things that I have personally seen myself, and also some things that have been proven through studies. The point of this list is for if you are a woman watching this and you're interested in men, to see maybe some things that you do that may be pushing men away or is creating negativity in your relationships or has in the past of your relationships, and for men, for you to feel validated and heard. And also you could potentially watch this with your partner to see, you know, does your partner do some of these things, and maybe it can start up a conversation. These things aren't explicit where it only pushes men away. It also can push women away, but these things have been more known and more likely to be a struggle of women where it does push more men away. So the first one is if you are a woman that is always demanding and you are never happy or satisfied. So to understand something as a woman, we need constant stimulation, because we are more prone to negativity in general. We are more highly emotional, which means we are more prone to negativity, which means we need more stimulation to make us feel better and for us to feel more content and happy. We're the ones that are more prone to overthinking. We constantly have 50 million things going on in our mind. We always have so much stress. We're more the ones that are constantly multitasking and doing so many things at once. We're a mom, we have jobs, you know, all of that. Men are content doing one thing at a time. They are more likely, and this isn't all, but more men are more likely to be able to focus, like, okay, today I'm focusing on doing this one task, you know, cleaning the garage, or I'm focused on, you know, building the treehouse, whatever it is. They can focus on that. Like, the house could be destroyed, but they'll be like, okay, this is the goal and this is the biggest thing that I'm gonna focus on. And they could be happy just doing that one thing. If you are a woman that's always demanding constant attention or just constant things, and you never seem like you're happy or satisfied, it's always like, what's next, that pushes men away. That makes them feel devalued, that makes them feel bad, and then they are more likely to want to avoid you, or they'll go and complain to their friends or their family members about you. Men need fewer things than women, and one of the biggest things they need is peace. So if you're destroying the peace and you're creating more chaos than peace, then they're naturally going to feel low and bad and want to avoid you. The next one, which is like a subcategory, is you don't show any appreciation. So this is for any relationship. When you don't feel appreciated, you naturally feel bad. But if you are a woman who asks for change and doesn't say thank you, or doesn't acknowledge it, or doesn't give them their love language, like you know, if they need physical touch, so you don't give them hugs, if you don't show them appreciation, not just for the things they do, but for who they are as a person, if you don't acknowledge for who they are as a person, then they are gonna feel really unappreciated. They're gonna be doing these things. A lot of men, they'll go and they'll work hard for their family, and some women won't say thank you, won't show that appreciation towards them, and then they feel devalued and bad. And not only that, men are less likely to receive compliments, and that's why a lot of men, they won't talk about it, but they'll have lower self-esteem, or they'll feel unconfident because they don't get told or validated often. So this often will leave men feeling really bad and low. And if you are a woman that doesn't show appreciation, which I hear this so often with my male clients, a lot, if not all my male clients, feel so unappreciated because there's this expectation that men have to show the appreciation, shower the woman with love, but then the men don't get appreciated. They don't get shown that same thing. It's like, oh, well, I cook for you and I clean for you and I take care of the kids, but there's no thank you for, you know, protecting us, or thank you for going to work every day. Even if the smallest things, there's not enough appreciation shown. It's so important that you not only acknowledge them for who they are as a person, and you not only compliment them, but you also acknowledge when they do a change that you ask, you say thank you, and you acknowledge it immediately, because that will reinforce the positive behavior and they'll do it again. The next one is you dismiss his feelings and you are overly defensive. So a lot of men I've seen, they are less likely to bring issues up, because what happens is, and if you get defensive about this, then you need to reconsider how you deal with situations. But oftentimes I've seen men will bring up an issue and the woman will immediately make it about her feelings and how she feels hurt that he would say that thing, or she wouldn't validate the man and how he felt, but rather would talk about how he's doing X, Y, and Z. There's a time and a place to do that, but the man doesn't receive enough validation and acknowledgement, and it will turn into the woman's feelings getting hurt because the man says something that's truthful. I'm not saying it's like mean, like he's not saying I hate you, you're an ugly whatever. Like he's saying like, hey, I feel neglected, or whatever it is, and so if your feelings get hurt by that and you want to acknowledge them, they immediately will feel dismissed. Or not only that, but a man may bring up a situation to you and you don't take that accountability. You don't say, oh yeah, no, I do those things. Your ego may get in the way, or your feelings may get in the way, and then you don't take the accountability for the wrong that you're doing. And so instead you may overly explain yourself rather than validate and acknowledge that you're doing that thing and how you're going to work on it. So you may often make things about your own feelings and not enough about his, because there's this terrible stigma that men are not supposed to have feelings, and it's generally about the woman's feeling. It's still in society very common. So men, their feelings need to be validated and heard more. And if you're aware that, or if you notice that you're doing this, then it's so important for you to be like, okay, I noticed that when my man does bring something up, maybe I'll bring it about something he does, or I will immediately defend myself or explain myself. Instead, take a moment and think about what he's saying and say, you know, I'm sorry that I made you feel this way, or I'm sorry I've done this to you, and you know, what do you need me to do better? The next one is you always talk about your feelings or bring up the past, and you don't talk solutions. So it's normal and natural when you feel like you're being treated unfairly, or things aren't changing, or maybe you feel like your partner's not nudging, for you to want to bring up your feelings. Hey, it hurts my feelings when you do this, or it bothered me when you did this, and you know, you just have these long conversations about your feelings. And maybe you'll bring up, hey, I don't want you to do this, but there's no direction of what you want them to change instead. So then it's something that doesn't get resolved, and then it's brought up again and again and again, because they may not know what to replace it with. So the problem won't get resolved partially because there's too much focus on feelings, and other part is because there's not enough solutions or how to move forward. Instead of just focusing on the feelings aspect, focus on the wrong behavior and what you need to change, because men do want a woman that will challenge them and help them to grow and move forward. In order to do that, there needs to be solutions or ways to change. And so in order to grow together, you want to work on problems together. That's how there's that release of vasopressin, which is the hormone that men release to connect with people. So come up with solutions of how you guys can do things together rather than focusing on the feelings aspect. And if your partner, if you're a woman and your partner doesn't care what you're saying, then yes, obviously reconsider the relationship. But if you have a partner that maybe doesn't know what to do or needs more direction, or just feels like kind of always focusing on the feelings and not enough on the solutions aspect, then try to focus more on the solutions aspect. I'm not saying everybody can be worked with, but when it comes to problems, you either have to accept that the problem's there and your partner, it's a fatal flaw and your partner may never really change, and see if you'll accept it, or you work on it together and you let room for there to be failure, and you try again. The next one is you don't compromise. So if you just want what you want and you don't try to empathize with your partner, or you don't try to see, you know, how can you get something that you want and also give something what they want, that naturally will make them feel defeated and like they never really have a voice or a say. In relationships, you have to learn how to negotiate and compromise things, and you're not always going to walk away happy, but the goal isn't always to be happy. It's that you feel like you didn't compromise too much of yourself and they didn't compromise too much of yourself, and you both got a little bit of something, so you don't leave hating each other, but it's not like, you know, you get everything and they get nothing, or vice versa. In every relationship, no matter what, there always need to be compromise, and for you to be willing to welcome some of your partner's wants and desires as well. So if you know something really bothers him and it's something that you want, you have to consider, can I let go of this and really consider him and his feelings, and consider that resentment may build, and then it could break us apart. The next one is needing constant validation. Now, it's very normal in every relationship to want some sort of validation, and a man should 100% make their woman feel beautiful and unique and desired. Yes, but if you are a woman that constantly puts tests out there, or constantly asks if he loves her, gets into fights, so that way you can have kind of like that makeup period, because it always feels very like loving after a fight, seeing if they'll still stick around, which is very common in insecure attachment, a behavior they'll do in insecure and fear of abandonment. But that just continues to push them away because it's that drama. And again, like I mentioned, men want peace. Instead, it's so important that you learn how to validate yourself and not always constantly seeking it out from them. Yes, like I said, it is so important. Like, your man needs to learn how to give validation, telling you you're beautiful, making you feel good. But if you're overly needy and you need it constantly, that is overwhelming for any person, and that will naturally make someone want to push you away, because it feels like it's sucking the life out of them. So you need to kind of learn that healthy balance, and having them, you know, making you feel special, but also not constantly needing them to say or do specific things to make you feel good. Like, you accepting the love that they give you, and you being able to fill that hole and that void that's inside of you, why you need that constant validation. So unhealthy ways of seeking that validation are, if you are constantly starting fights, if you're constantly asking if they love you, if you don't allow them to go out and you always need them by your side, all of that are unhealthy ways to seek validation. Healthier ways are, you know, letting him know that you would like him to give you a compliment daily, or letting him know that you would like him to do an act of service, something that's reasonable. The next one is super important, is you don't make him feel valued. And this one is a hidden, I wouldn't say hidden, but it's a very subtle thing rather, that a lot of women will do, where they will make their man feel not valued. And the biggest way they'll do this is by using sex as a weapon. Now, I'm not saying that you always constantly have to want to have sex with someone, because who the hell does, especially when you're in a relationship for a long period of time. It just kind of dies out. Or like if your man's not making you feel good, or he's frustrating you, or you're tired from the kids, valid. You never have to force yourself to have sex, ever. But it's different. There's a difference between saying no because, you know, you just are not up for it, versus you saying, oh, well, now you're not going to get sex because we got in this fight, or oh, now there's no sex for a week because of X, Y, and Z. Like, that's using it as a threat and a punishment. And studies have shown that men need sex to feel of value, and women do too, but men have been shown to need more, especially biologically, because we're made to reproduce. And that's why oftentimes in caveman times, men would kind of go around, they'd be the ones that would go around the block more often. So it's super important you don't use sex as a weapon and a tool to manipulate your partner. And not just sex, but also making him feel low and like he doesn't do enough, or making him feel like he is not an important person in your life. Like saying things like, I'm a woman that doesn't need a man. You know, all those things will make a man not feel valued. Now, technically you don't need a man, but you want them to still feel needed to a degree, because that's what makes them feel good. Men feel good by being protectors, by being able to help and take care of things. And so if you take that away from them, you know, also being a provider, if you take that away from them, then they don't feel valued as a man. or even worse, it can make them feel devalued. So be careful of that, and any type of emasculating language. Emasculation immediately will make them feel devalued. The next one is not allowing him to have him time. In every relationship, every single person needs individuality and alone time. Now, if a man has expressed that he really needs alone time, or he has hobbies that he wants to do, and you make it difficult for him, and you place guilt trips, and you make him feel bad for doing those things, then he naturally is going to feel negative towards you. And again, like I said, want to avoid you, or lie to you, or hide things behind your back. It's so important that you allow men to have their alone time, so that way they can be with the boys, and they can be with their homies, and they can do whatever they need to be doing, you know, kick back, lay back. You know, we as women, we can be very stimulating, and they just need time to just talk about nothing and just unwind, because they have their own stressors. So if you don't allow them to have it, same way you wouldn't like it if you didn't have that, then they immediately are going to feel some type of resentment or frustration. And this especially happens if you place those guilt trips and you make him feel bad for him wanting to have alone time. Or, you know, that doesn't mean they're cheating, it doesn't mean that they want other people, it doesn't mean that they're doing something bad. That's why there's such a thing as men caves and things like that. They need that alone time, and you should also have that alone time. The last one, which it's on both ends, not regulating your emotions. If there's anything I could recommend, please learn to regulate your emotions. This is so important in every one of your relationships, relationships with kids, relationships with friends, relationships at work, and your romantic relationships. Not being able to regulate your emotions is what I would say causes the most amount of problems, because when your emotions arise, we often will make irrational decisions, we'll say irrational things, and it will lead to negative consequences. So if you learn how to regulate your emotions, then it will less likely lead to those negative consequences. You'll be able to be more level-headed, you'll be more aware of yourself, you can take some time to, you know, reflect and take deep breaths if that's what you need, but you can come back to situations and talk them out rather than having these big explosions when your emotions are dysregulated. It is normal as a woman, especially because we have so many hormones, we go through cycles, that we are more likely to be prone to dysregulated emotions. That doesn't mean that men don't also have dysregulated emotions, but men are more known to be more logical than emotional. There's emotional men, but we're talking about what's in the middle. So because of that, it can be really difficult to deal with someone that constantly doesn't have regulated emotions, and the man feels like they constantly have to help you regulate, or they have to pick up the pieces, and it can feel more like they are a caretaker rather than a partner. So it's normal to be emotional and have anxiety and cry. You're allowed to do that. It's more so when it's an extreme ends, where like when you get in fights, maybe you run away, or you have a really hard time being able to deal with situations, and you can't deal with it with them without him, and you know, on the extreme end of having high emotions. It's not fair to anybody. Like, everyone is in control of their own emotions. You can't control if maybe you are someone that's highly emotional, but you are in full control of regulating your emotions, and it's unfair to place that on a man to be responsible for your emotions. And so you need to take that on. And like I said, you don't have to be perfect, but you should be aware and be more considerate towards your man when it comes to regulating your emotions and not placing so much responsibility on him. The next one is expect him to read your mind. So I've heard this so often where both people, they'll actually say, you know, if they wanted to do it, they would. What does that mean? That means that you think that they should read your mind. Something I often hear on both ends is, I don't want to tell them to do it because then it's unnatural and they didn't think of it themselves. So I want them to just know already. That is such an unrealistic expectation, because not everyone is the same. Everyone has different expectations, ideas of how things should go, and the only way we'll ever get our needs met is by expressing what it is that we need. So if you are someone that has that ideology and mindset that, you know, they should kind of think of that already, then you'll be someone that will play mind games. You may sigh instead of expressing what is going on in your mind. You won't flat out say when something is bothering you. You will hold it in. You will test the man to see if they know what you're upset about, or you'll just do these little tests to see if they'll say the right thing. All of that is completely unfair. You have to say what you mean. A person, it's borderline abusive to force someone to read your mind and guess, you know, what it is that you're thinking by playing these games and by not expressing. It's completely different. Like, it's understandable you have traumas where you're maybe scared or hesitant to express how you're feeling. That's fine, that's valid, but you got to work on that, because it's not fair to place it on your man of, oh, you know, he should be able to know that when I say this, this means this, and he should know that if I roll my eyes, it means I'm feeling this. Like, that's not fair. You gotta express what you're feeling and not play these games, because guess what? That's what leads to separation, by playing games. Be straightforward, flat out. This is what's bothering me. This is what I want to change. And understand, just because you express something is bothering you and you want it to change doesn't mean it's going to happen immediate, or doesn't mean that it's going to exactly happen. That's when you have to decide, is this big of a deal that it's a deal breaker for me and I cannot be with this person, or is it something that I can accept and just understand they cannot give me this thing? That's up to you if the person doesn't change. The next one is seeing him as a project. This is so common on both ends, where you see someone and you see the potential, and like they say the right things, and you see what could happen, and so then you focus on trying to build them up and you make them a project and you want to see them grow. That is the completely wrong mindset, because who you get is who they most likely are going to be in the relationship. If you're with someone that says hell no to marriage and babies, it's a hell no to babies and marriage, and you have to accept that. When you meet someone, you need to accept them for who they are when you meet them, if you like them and you deem them worthy as moving forward, and understand they may grow with you in areas, but it's not going to be like this huge grandiose change. It's going to be little things where you guys grow together, you learn together, but you shouldn't expect someone who's like a mean person to all of a sudden become nice. If there's things you don't accept about this person and they are deal breakers, then do not be with this person and do not try to be with this person. Nobody likes feeling like they're a project. So if you get with a man and you're trying to overly fix him, that's when resentment will build, and it will just wind up in separation eventually. So don't get focused on the potential of what could be. If you don't accept who they are now, and like the potential of what could be is an added bonus, and you're happy with it, then do not try to force yourself to be with them or push them. It is natural in relationships to push your partner to be better, but it shouldn't be where they are a project and you're like dragging them along, and that you care more than they care about their growth. And the last one is you insult him, his passions, and his dreams. When you do this, you will make him feel undermined, and he will be less likely to want to share with you things that are going on in his life. He will feel pathetic, he may feel bad, he will feel worthless, he will have all of these negative feelings. But because men in society, it's told that they have to suck up their feelings, and this is just the norm. Men don't get as much empathy as women, and they just have to deal with it. They're just gonna go around with this wound inside of them, and they're just gonna naturally just feel bad whenever they want to do this hobby. They may quit doing the hobby, they may stop doing it, or they just constantly have this negative feeling towards you and this resentment towards you because you're so unsupportive and mean about the things that they're interested in. It's so important to support your partner. Now obviously you're not going to support crazy things. I hope you wouldn't be with someone that wants to do absurd things, but more so just someone that they're passionate about, like cars, or you know, they're passionate about shoes, whatever it is. Just be supportive. Be like, oh, that's really cool. You know, it's cool that you really have all these different shoes. Or, oh my God, it's so funny that you know all of the Star Wars in order. I don't know anything about Star Wars, so I don't know. But, you know, being supportive and loving towards your partner, when you want to be with someone, you accept them as a whole, and you also take in and welcome even the weirdest, nerdiest things about them, or just different hobbies and dreams, and not placing your narrative of what a man should be in that regard. A lot of men will hide things that they're interested in. I don't mean weird stuff, I mean just things like nerdy stuff or whatever it is. Maybe they like to still play with their imaginative games, whatever it is. They will hide those things because they don't want to be judged, and they don't feel like they have a woman to be able to share those things with. So if you really want a man to cherish you and love you and give you your needs, then you also will give him his needs of supporting him and loving him and encouraging him in his desires and dreams and hopes and interests. So what do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. Today's outfit is Greek Goddess by Grace, from Greece. My balls are crying. Is that a hair or a ghost?